Hey guys, welcome to another 5 Reasons. I hope you're all doing well. I've had a particularly stressful week this week. We've had the equivalent of what you might call an Ofsted inspection, which we get once a year at the university. And several officials coming into my class and watching me teach, which is always great fun. But fortunately, I think I was on form and everything went well, so fingers crossed. But yeah, it should be all right, it should be fine. I had a couple of comments on my beard. Thanks for those. It was looking a bit rough in the last couple of videos, so I did a bit of grooming, as you can see, around the cheeks here as well. So, but yeah, thanks very much. I don't usually have a beard. It gets down to about -25 here in the peak of winter. So I thought, because I suffer a little bit with the cold, well, as most people would at -25, I thought growing a beard this year, I'll see how much of a difference that makes. But so yeah, I'll let you know. Also, I had another comment on, are you going to make a video on how much China sucks? And I thought, well, yes, that will be my next one after this. But it will be 5 reasons why I don't love China. So maybe a bit strong with that question. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, here's my 5 reasons why I love China. Okay, number 1, PC culture. There's no PC culture in China to speak of anyway, certainly when you compare it with back home. I mentioned this in my last video as one of the reasons why I left the UK. But for example, whether this is consciously or subconsciously, Chinese people tend to view men and women certainly as a sexually dimorphic species, if you like. There's a definite understanding that that there are differences between men and women, and certainly that leads to more traditional gender roles, if you like, something we haven't seen for a long time in the West, and a real respect between those differences. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't mean that there's this sort of view that men are better than women or women better than men. Again, it's a mutual respect between the sexes and the differences. Call it advantages and disadvantages of being one or the other. Well, that's what I see anyway. So yeah, no PC culture, for sure. Number 2, crime. There's no crime. Well, there's no violent crime. We all know about the corruption issues that are going on in China. We've got petty theft, pickpocketing, this kind of thing. You've got to be careful on buses and trains, just generally crowded places. But violent crime, one of the major issues in the West, is something which you just do not see here. And it's strange, I don't know why. I could... Okay, let's get hypothetical here. Say one morning I wake up and I feel a bit strange, and I think to myself, I don't know, maybe today I'll identify as, I don't know, a transgender, non-binary, left-of-centre, genderqueer or whatever, right? And I decide, right, tonight I'm going to go out. I'm going to put on a couple of inches of makeup. I'll keep the beard on, obviously. I'll put my heels on, wear a skirt up round my waist. I don't know, whatever. I could walk the streets up and down this city all night long, well into the early hours, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would feel as safe as anything. You don't have that feeling that you need to be looking over your shoulder every 5 seconds, potentially, in situations like that. And certainly for real women, they have no worries. And any woman that or foreigner that comes to China who's female will tell you exactly the same thing. Very strange. Very peaceful people, the Chinese, and very non-confrontational. You might get arrested for I don't know, for some kind of indecent exposure, but probably not, because the police go home at about 10 o'clock at night. You won't see any police in the early hours of the morning. The only police you do see during the day are possibly, you might see half a dozen or so. It depends. If you have any sort of government officials arriving, having some meetings or something in that particular week, then there is definitely a marked increase in police presence. But generally speaking, all the police you do see are directing traffic. They're traffic cops. That's all they're doing. They're standing in the middle of the road and they're waving traffic to and fro. And that's about it. There's no beep or bees, shall we say. The police in China are very, at best, reactive, certainly not proactive in the way they go about their work. And contrary to what most people think, is far less oppressive than the West, for sure. I have no idea why there's no violent crime. It's bizarre. I haven't quite worked it out yet. Number 3, the people, generally. Again, I mentioned that the Chinese people are very, very peaceful people, very non-confrontational, very friendly, very generous, very hospitable. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be screaming at me saying, no, the Chinese are very rude, they're impolite, and yes, there is that. I'm going to go into this in the next video with regards to some of the aspects as to why I don't like China or don't love China. But when you've been here long enough, you begin to understand what their culture is all about. If you come here just for a 2-week holiday, you're not going to get it. But you stay here as long as I have, or for at least a year or two, you'll definitely be able to see through this conception that, and the real culture shines through, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, we'll carry on with that another time. I think the Chinese people are very funny. They make me laugh. Now, that's not to say that I laugh at them. They're not a source of amusement for me. But I feel comfortable. Right? There's this certain cheesiness about Chinese culture and the way people lead their lives, and there's a very sort of charming naivety about them, which I find, I don't know, cute, if you like, for want of a better word. But again, I'll probably do another video about this. We'll go around visit some families or something or whatever, give you a better insight into what I'm talking about here. But I'll get some B-roll footage of a few things I've seen. Okay, so anyway, moving on. Number 4, cost of living. Now, again, I mentioned this in the last video with regards to me leaving the UK. High cost of living, but here certainly completely opposite, low cost of living. Certainly for foreigners coming here. Food is probably the number one issue you'll notice. Food is a lot cheaper here. The different types of food. Back home, we consider food to be particularly bland unless we go for an Indian or a Chinese or you name it, whatever, Mexican. But you tend to get such a huge range of different types of food here. All Chinese food, obviously, but different parts of China has different types of food. And you can generally get all of them, depending on what restaurant you go to. Incredible food, absolutely. So, I mean, we all love Chinese takeaways back home. On typical, stereotypical Friday, Saturday night, we go, oh, let's go get a Chinese takeaway. And you know, I used to love it. I eat Chinese food all the time back home, but here I wasn't prepared for how different it really was. I mean, I knew you'd get more sort of authentic Chinese food in the country you're going to, but I didn't believe for one minute that it would taste that much better here. and it does. It's phenomenally better. So for all those people that love Chinese food, come to China, eat some genuine Chinese food, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's incredible, and you can put on some serious weight here if you're not careful. Okay, next one. Medical treatment, and also dentists. Dentists here in China, again, very cheap. You phone up a dentist and say, "Oh, I need an appointment," and they say, "Oh yeah, do you want to come in this afternoon?" Or tomorrow? And you go, "Okay." You're not kind of used to that. It's usually sort of 6 weeks you have to wait to go and see a dentist back home. So it's slightly different. I mean, I've been to a couple of backstreet dentists here, don't get me wrong, and they're like butchers. I regret even going. It's scary times. But when you actually spend some time here and you look around, you do some research, you find some really professional dentists. I might put up some pictures of my dentist I go to here somewhere. I had a root canal done on one of my back teeth here, and I was convinced I would have to have it pulled out. And they say, no. We'll do the root canal. And I said, well, how much is that? Because I knew back home, someone I knew, it was going to cost somewhere upwards of, I don't know, somewhere between £1,000 and £1,500. I had it done. It was a 5-hour treatment, and I had to over 3 visits. Very professional. I was a little bit dubious, I have to say, but after those 3 visits, more than happy. Professional filling, you name it, perfect. I couldn't fault them in any way whatsoever. £150. Yes, £150 it cost me, which is, you're looking at somewhere in the region. I mean, that's kind of 10 times cheaper than back home in the West. I don't know what's going on here. So that's very interesting. Another one is hospitals. Hospitals, my God, yes, different kind of system altogether. There's no NHS here. You don't pay national insurance out of your wages or whatever, salaries. So it's a real pay as you go. There's no doctor's surgeries. You don't go to a doctor and make an appointment weeks in advance. You go directly to the hospital and you grab a ticket. You go to the reception desk and you say, I need to see, I don't know, ENT specialist. So you got an ear infection. And you say, yes, I need to see an ENT specialist. Oh, okay. So do you want to see the trainee doctor, or do you want to see the consultant? I said, well, how much is that? Well, to see the trainee doctor is only 10 yuan, which is £1. Or to see the consultant, it's 30 yuan, something like that. £3. So of course you go for the 30 yuan consultant doctor. And you might wait up to an hour, I suppose, depending on what time of day you go to the hospital. So it's certainly nowhere near something back home. You go to any A&E department back in the UK, you could be sitting there for hours, as we all know. Very quick. They look at you, they diagnose the problem usually, and they send you on your way with another ticket, whereby you have to go to a certain window and pay for the time you've had with the consultant, and then you go to another window in the hospital where you with your prescription from the consultant to get your medications, and then you go home. The whole process is ridiculously cheap again. Now, a lot of people think the city I'm in, I mean, as long as it's minor medical treatment, you're okay. If you need any sort of major invasive procedures, certainly in terms of operations and open heart surgery and what have you, I would probably advise you go back home or go to Beijing, because you put your life in your own hands. You're putting your life in their hands, which is not very sensible. Anyway, okay, moving on. Taxis is probably the last one I'd mention here. Taxis are fantastic. It's as though you have your own chauffeur permanently. There's so many of them. You can pick a taxi up as long as you're living within sort of city limits here. There are taxis everywhere. You just hail a cab, they come, straight there, and very cheap. I can travel from one end of the city to the other end, many times over for less than £5. It's ridiculous. It's not even worth mentioning. And one of the cool aspects about taxis are the drivers. You can speak Chinese to them. You learn most of your Chinese from taxi drivers. There's this typical taxi driver mentality. They ask you all the usual questions. Oh, how old are you? Where are you from? How long have you been in China? And all these repeated questions over and over and over again with all the number of taxis. You begin to, through repetition, learn how to answer these questions, because you say them so often, obviously, through repeating yourself. And it does get a bit tedious at times, but it's certainly, as I said, one of the best ways to learn Chinese. Okay, and the last one, number 5, Chinese culture. The Chinese are very protective of their culture. We're talking about something that goes back 5,000 years here, so probably one of the longest cultures in existence today. Very different, one of the most unique cultures that you'll probably ever see on the planet. And they are very attracted to Western life. To them, it does seem very exotic, but as a very proud nation, they feel they need to hold on to what's dear to them, and that is their culture. And they like taking certain aspects of Western culture and trying to marry it in the most compatible way possible, or integrate it into their way of life. And sometimes it's a real struggle, and it's a strange contradiction that goes on. It's very difficult to explain, actually. However, I think this is one of the main reasons why a lot of people in the West see China as possibly slightly slower in the pickup in terms of sort of social development, because of this overwhelming desire to prioritize and to hold on to their culture. And this is something I admire about them, something that we don't see very much in certainly modern countries around the world these days. There's I think so much multiculturalism now in certain countries that the underlying culture of certain nations are being completely eroded away, which leaves you with a complete mishmash of a culture, which has no real identity. And this is what we call diversity, which I suppose on the face of it sounds really good, but I think in the long run, in terms of social development, as has been shown in many countries today, it doesn't really work. And when you compare that multicultural diversity kind of way of life to China, you can certainly see that China leads the way, because they won't allow that kind of diversity to break up and chop up their beloved culture. Alright guys, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll try and pick up with you next week for another video on 5 reasons why I don't love China. So we're going to go through some of the bad stuff, which I don't think I'm really ever going to get used to too much. Alright guys, so as always, any questions, leave them in the comments section below or email me directly. And as always, please, if you like the video, thumbs up, and if you don't mind, subscribe. Show some of your support, that would be great, and I'll see you next time. Okay, see you later, bye bye.